Yes. Thursday. Sorry. My days got mixed up. Thursday, yeah. Does anybody have any questions on the product reviews? Like I said, we're going to take these, we're going to post them up to YouTube, start our own YouTube channel for Winjo product reviews. Should be pretty interesting. Okay. If there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and move on with the next stage of writing for cyberspace. And before we can actually do the writing involving social networking, we need to kind of understand some of the basics of social networking, social media, and understanding what the role of social media is pretty much all over the world. All right? So here's what I'd like you to do first. In your groups, first of all, close your computers. Let's talk about technology without using our technology for a minute. All right? I want you to brainstorm. I want you to come up with a list of as many different social media / social networking outlets that you can. I'll give you 3 to start with. Facebook, Twitter, QQ. All right? Talk in your groups. Take about 5 minutes to brainstorm. See how many different outlets you can think of that are social media or social networking. Make a list. Yep, use the old paper and pen, the old-fashioned way to do it. I got the big ones out of the way. So now you got to come up with more. You use social media and social networking more than you think.
The time is 8:00 p.m.
Which one? Yeah. Which was just bought by Facebook, by the way. What do you have, Lena?
We have WeChat, Instagram, people, Weibo, page, Method, LinkedIn, and Google Plus.
Do you have a Facebook account? Then yes, you do, because Facebook just bought them. Yeah. And the cool thing about Instagram here in China is you can actually load it up to Facebook. You can upload it to Facebook without a VPN. If you take a picture through Instagram, you can upload it to Facebook without a VPN. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to change. Yeah. All right, guys, 2 more minutes. Yes, absolutely. That is a form of social media.
There is discussion about the input. Is that social media?
What do you think?
I think it is.
It is. It absolutely is. Okay, let's see how many of these we can come up with. Start yelling them out. Shout them out. Microblogs. What else? WeChat. What else? Instagram. What else? What? LinkedIn, yeah. What else? Line, what is that? I haven't done that one. Okay. What else? WhatsApp. That one's in the news a lot right now. What else? MSN, the messenger? MSN messaging. What else? Blogger. Yep. What else? YouTube. I was wondering when that one was going to come up. And was it Yoku? Right? What else? Do what? Spell it. Okay. What up? Skype. What else? Wiki Spaces, absolutely. What about Blackboard? We mentioned Wiki Spaces. What about Wikipedia? Would Wikipedia be social media? Why? Absolutely. Wikipedia is also social media. What else? Google Plus. What else? iTunes, yes. Why is iTunes? Why would iTunes be considered social media? You can join in, you can upload to iTunes University, you can make podcasts. There are also comment boxes in iTunes for different pieces. Anything that has a comment box would really be considered social media because you're in a society of people that are trying to actually have a conversation about a particular thing. What else? Google Play. What else? Taobao and Tmall? Yep. What else? There are a few big ones we're missing. Do what? Amazon. Amazon does have a social aspect to it. What about, have you heard of Flickr? Flickr. It is a photo sharing site. What about Tumblr? Another blog site. Reddit. Reddit is getting big. What else? Is there anything up here that we haven't mentioned that you have on your list? Do what? BBS. Running out of room here. What else? See anything up there that, or is there anything on your list that's not on my list? Email. Why?
Because it's also an exchange of information.
Will do. Do what? Turn it in. Email. Hey, we'll go with turn it in. All right. It's supposed to be an exchange of information anyway, right? Do what?
I mean, if email can be, why not LinkedIn?
Why not what?
No.
Okay. All right, let's see how many we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Almost 30 different things that we listed out in just a few minutes. And believe me, this is not all of it by any stretch of the imagination. The point is, social media is in our lives. Whether we say we use it or not, we do a lot of times even though we don't realize it. Now, look at these up here. How many of these do you use on a daily basis? At most 10? You don't have to admit how many you use. I just want you to think about it for a minute. Meditate on it for a minute. Look and see how many of these you use on a daily basis. Just kind of think about it. What I would like for you to do, though, is once you have this idea of what you use on a daily basis, I want you to talk in your groups about how you use this. What do you use these particular social networks and social media outlets for? Okay? So talk about that for a few minutes in your groups. What do you do with these? How many of those do you use, Lena?
5 parts, different parts.
Okay.
5 parts.
Okay. Two more minutes.
In a high school, probably use one hour. And now we are also using that's not so many information that you can get.
How many of these do you use a day?
WeChat, Taobao, email, YouTube.
All right. How about you? Pretty much the same? How about you? How many do you use? All of them? Ah, interesting. All right. How about you? How many do you use a day, would you say?
I dare not.
Martin, how about you?
Maybe
2. I figured you was kind of the techie guy. Yeah? All right. Interesting. But it's interesting, though, why we choose. We're going to talk about this later. Why we choose to kind of say, "No, I don't do it," you know. But why?
Because it's not for any good purpose.
Ah, we're going to see if that's true. Because you might be right. Okay, guys, let's take a look up here at these. I've listened to a lot of your discussions, and yeah, you've pretty much nailed what these are used for, why they were created. You know, you are the target demographic, all right? So, what we want to do now is look at social media in terms of, you know, why we're there, but also in terms of input versus output, all right? Now, what do I mean by input versus output? Do you go to the website? Do you log on to the app? Do you use the actual application for input or output? Do you log on to it to get information or to present information? All right? Let's look through these and see if we can kind of classify these as what you spend most of your time doing on these websites or on these apps. Do you do it for input, output, or both? And we got to be honest here. Turnitin is obviously
Output.
it's output. Why?
Because we need to output.
It's mainly used to turn your papers in. You're hoping that we'll say something back to you, right? So it is kind of both. It is both input output, but we'll do a big I and a little O. Okay. What about Facebook? Input. Why? When you log on to Facebook, what is your purpose for actually saying, "Oh, I need to get onto Facebook"? To say something, right? Which means it's output. It's you outputting information. Do you get onto Facebook just to see what other people are saying? Or do you get onto Facebook primarily to say, "I've got to post this. I've got to post that I had a banana for lunch this morning." You know. It is primarily used for output. Big O, little I. Twitter. Does anybody in here use Twitter? Why do you say input?
It's like another application channel. People mostly read.
But that's what I'm saying. You're posting.
But mostly it's read after.
Really?
Yeah.
That's backwards from the United States, really, to be honest with you. Most of the people, like they have automatic Twitter feeds where you can actually just go about your daily life and say, "Had a banana for lunch." And then it'll post it for you. So it becomes primarily an input device. That's interesting. So I'll give it both an I and an O. But primarily Twitter is for you to broadcast your life, right? We'll look at a product maybe today or next class period, I haven't decided yet, that takes this another step further. What about QQ? You say both? Okay. What about microblogs? If you are logging on to your microblog, what are you doing? Why do you say both? Right. But they're commenting to what you have already posted. So yeah, it's going to be both. Actually, all of these are going to be both, but what we want to do is look at which one is more. So with a microblog, I would say big O, little I. WeChat. It's both. It's communication, right? Instagram. Instagram is output. It's take a picture, post it. Take a picture, post it. Take a picture, post it. Oh, look, somebody commented on one of my pictures, right? So that one is big O, little I. LinkedIn. What is the purpose of putting your stuff on LinkedIn? It's selective input, but it's blanket output. The idea of LinkedIn is, I want to get a job, here's my information, right? So output. Email is both. I don't know Line. I'm not really familiar with Line. Is it like WeChat, you said? Okay, that would be both. WhatsApp. Again, kind of like WeChat. Messaging is going to be both. Blogger. O-I. YouTube. It's both, but this one flips back. When you log on, okay, you know, John Q. Public, when you log on to YouTube, most of the time you're not logging on to upload a video, right? It is input. Yeah, you're getting input. You're watching a video. So that one is actually big I, little o.
You're logging it because you want to do content to others.
You can, but the reason you're not logging on to YouTube just to do a comment. You're logging on to watch a video, and if you like it or if you don't like it, then you're going to comment. That becomes secondary.
Because YouTube doesn't require you to log in to see videos.
True.
So typically I don't
But it's still social, though. It's still socially posted. So that's what I'm saying. The purpose of YouTube, the reason that you go to YouTube, you don't go to YouTube and say, I'm going to log on to YouTube so that I can comment on 50 videos. Right? You log on to YouTube to watch the videos, which becomes input, input, input. Right? Okay. Yoku, same thing. I, little o. Skype. Both. Wikispaces. Wikispaces, not Wikipedia. Wikispaces. It's majorly output, right? Now, we've seen that this has actually been a little bit of a problem because it's more difficult for me to comment back on what you've said, which is why we're probably going to change to Google Pages next week. But the Wikispaces is about output. It's about getting the information out. Good. Blackboard, again, output, input. BBS. Kind of both, yeah. Wikipedia. It is primarily input, yes. Now, I do know some people who get on to say, I'm going to scour Wikipedia to see if I can find things wrong and fix it. Or I'm going to scour Wikipedia and see if I can break it, right? People do that. Google Plus. It's both, but it's primarily output. It's just like Facebook, right? We're getting on Google Plus. We log on to Google Plus to post something we've done, or post something we've seen, or post something funny. And we hope that people respond to that, right? We don't log on to Facebook or Google Plus to really learn anything. We log on to present something to the world and hope that somebody responds to it, okay? iTunes is I'd say, well, yeah, it's big I, little o, because you're. It is kind of, yeah, I think it would be. If we're talking about the comment boxes, it'd be both. Same thing with Google Play. Taobao and Tmall would be both. My lecture is backfiring in front of me a little bit here. Amazon would be both. Flickr. Flickr is a photo site. It's where you upload your photos that somebody may or may not comment to. That would be output. Tumblr. Tumblr is a type of blog where, you post what's going on. So that's going to be output. And the same thing with Reddit. Actually, Reddit is both, because a lot of people do log on to Reddit and subreddits to get information. But look at the comparison here between O's and I's. Big O's and big I's. Okay? There is an argument that we have become digitally narcissistic, right? Now, big word, but narcissistic means that we only care about ourselves. That we're becoming a lot more interested in putting information out than getting information in. I'm not going to say which side of this I agree with. There is no right or wrong side to it. But I want you to consider this. And I want us to watch a brief video this was from 1.5 years ago, 18 months ago. Let's see if it still holds true. Oh, well.
Today's world is completely saturated with social media as consumers become more dependent on services such as Facebook and Twitter for both personal and business purposes. But what impact is this having on society? Technology companies and marketers, of course, advocate social development and claim that it is necessary to move humanity forward. Although privacy activists have raised concerns over the data that is collected and shared across the web, the general public's usage of social networks does not suggest that it is very bothered. And this is exactly what worries Andrew Keen, the author of new book Digital Vertigo, How Today's Online Social Revolution is Dividing, Diminishing, and Disorienting Us. And he has long taken the stance that the current internet culture is having an adverse effect on society. And with his latest book, he targets social media and the negative impact that it could have. And Keen is joining us right now by way of Skype to talk about his new book and his unique perspective. Thanks so much for being with us today, Andrew.
Well, thank you, Abby, for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. Well, you have been labeled as the net's supreme cybergrump, the Antichrist of the Silicon Valley, and many other nicknames for your views on the internet. So why are you so against today's internet culture, and particularly the social web?
Well, do I look grumpy to you?
No.
Not really very grumpy. I'm a cheerful pessimist, I think.
Good way to put it.
Well, I have a cautionary note. Digital vertigo is a warning about the loss of privacy, of the inner self that social media is doing to us. So I wouldn't say that I'm against the internet. We're doing this interview over Skype. I'm on Twitter. I'm on email all day. I have all the same devices that everybody else has. I recognize that the web is the dominant reality in social, cultural life, economic life of the 21st century. But that doesn't mean that we should accept it unthinkingly. So I think that we need to try and make the internet more habitable.
Right. Well, let's get into some of these issues. What has brought on this dangerous form of digital narcissism that you reference in your book?
Well, human beings have always been narcissistic. It's one of the features, to use a computer word, of the species. The Greeks were the ones who invented the term narcissism. And throughout our history as a species, I think we have suffered from often an excessive love of the self. In America, of course, narcissism has been very much of a central feature in the culture. Christopher Lasch wrote about it in the 60s before anyone had even thought of the internet. So the internet didn't invent narcissism. But on the internet, it enables, particularly social media, a personalized broadcast platform, which really perpetuates and amplifies and exaggerates narcissism. And as we retreat from real social things, and as we retreat from reading or watching or listening to other people's ideas, music, movies, books, we seem to be more and more preoccupied with broadcasting ourselves. And that, I think, is deeply narcissistic and ultimately doesn't reflect well on us as an individuals or collectively as a species. What did you have for breakfast this morning, Abby?
A banana?
Exactly. Is that interesting?
Not exactly. That's a good point.
The fact that you had a banana or that I had a muffin, now most people are broadcasting incredibly inane material or material that's kind of silly or pointless or destructive to themselves by posting lots of photographs of their children or more and more intimate details of their personal life, destroying their inner world, their privacy. So it doesn't really benefit anyone.
But you say that online sharing is killing our species and that we've lost what it is to be human by living so publicly, which these are very, very bold statements.
I'm not saying that the internet's killing our species or that social networking is killing our species. What I am saying is that we need to make the internet more suitable for human beings. And the history of mankind for the last few hundred years has been on the cultivation of the self, of the inner world. And I'm worried that the sort of what I would call the new collectivism of the social age, groupthink, the publicness of much discourse, is resulting in losing something essential about what it means to be human. That's what worries me. It doesn't mean the killing. The killing of the species is absurd. And of course, the species always adapts to technology. There's no doubt about that. Our species is remarkably adaptive and flexible. But that doesn't mean that we can adapt to anything and everything. And I do think we're at a moment now in social media where we need to think a little bit more carefully and critically about how we use it, where to draw the line, and how we maintain the sanctity of our inner worlds, our inner life.
What about the impact that social media has had in the Middle East and Occupy Wall Street and other movements like these? What are your thoughts on these? Are these good uses, in your opinion?
I think they are good uses. In the book, I make it clear that I support or I'm sympathetic and I admire the way in which social media has been used to topple dictators in the Middle East, the way it's being used to challenge Putin in Russia. I'm sympathetic, obviously, to the way in which social media activists are using technology and the internet in China. But at the same time, one of the problems, I think, with social media is it isn't very social. It's really just an aggregation of individuals. So it's perhaps not surprising that the Occupy movement or the movements in the Middle East haven't really matured into coherent, viable political movements. And the other side of the coin of social media are the London riots, kind of anarchy, chaos. And one could argue that in some ways the London riots are a more accurate reflection of the atomized, highly individualized and often destructive nature of social media than the revolutions in Cairo or the Occupy movement. The Occupy movement in particular is an aggregation of individuals which hasn't really developed into a coherent political movement, and I think that's both a cause and an effect of the radically individualized nature of social media, particularly in America.
So then do you think all of this online social behavior is negatively impacting consumers' actions offline then, their social interactions?
Well, that may have been a Freudian slip. You talked about, you mean consumers or citizens? Because they're citizens rather than consumers.
Well,
consumers
yes.
are, citizens act.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Citizens is what I meant to say.
Right. Well, but that's one of the problems, is people are often confusing citizens and consumers.
This is true.
And I think in some ways social media treats us all not as citizens, but as consumers, as people with, sort of universal rights of some sort. over the product. The problem, of course, on the social web is that we think of ourselves as consumers, but the reality on networks like Facebook is that we're the product.
Right.
So that's the tragedy, that's the film noir element in the narrative. That's why I call my book Digital Vertigo. It's all built off Alfred Hitchcock's great 20th century movie Vertigo, which was a film noir about a man who got swept, an innocent man who got swept into a terrible series of crimes. In a peculiar kind of way, a similar thing has happened to all of us in the 21st century.
Well, do you believe that Facebook's IPO disaster is proof of these things that you're saying?
No, I take Facebook very seriously. Facebook's IPO disaster, I think, reflected both poor planning on the part of Wall Street and the banks, and a certain kind of arrogance on the part of Facebook that it can break all the rules. But no, I think that Facebook is a real company. I think social media is real. It's not just a bubble. There are always bubble elements. And whether or not Facebook is worth 60 or 70 or $100 billion is not really a subject that particularly interests me. But it's worth a lot of money. It is the new platform, the new front door. We're seeing a shift from a Google-centric economy of links to a Facebook-centric economy of likes. So yeah, I wouldn't write off the public relations disaster of the Facebook IPO and say, well, all social media is a bubble. That's wrong. And there's a massive, I don't like this word, but I can't think of another one, ecosystem of other companies, other social companies, which have investments from angels and VCs. They may not go public. I'm not sure what the mood is in the public markets. But these are real companies changing our behavior, changing how we watch TV, changing how we eat, changing how we travel, changing how we interact with doctors, how we educate ourselves, how we read. So this is a profound change. Social media is not a bubble.
Right. Well, social media, it has worked its way into governments and many legal proceedings at this point. Do you see this as dangerous in this merger?
I don't think it's dangerous. I think government is very slow. I think the problem in America in particular is the government has become archaic. It's trailing behind. The smartest people, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Reid Hoffmans of this world aren't going into government. They're going into startups. And we need to figure out a way to reinvigorate government, to make smart people go back into it, and to enable it to keep up with technology. At the moment, government's essentially irrelevant in America. It's a sideshow. It's something that irritates us. But the real action's in Silicon Valley. The real action is the way in which companies like Facebook and Google are changing the world.
So what do you think would be a solution for this current predicament?
I think there are a number of solutions. I'd like to see government try and catch up and become a little more active. Some of the initiatives coming from within government, particularly Europe, the right to forget legislation, do not track. I think these are interesting and probably necessary, but government needs to be more proactive, faster, more aggressive. I think we all have a responsibility as social media users to understand that when we reveal everything about ourselves, when we turn ourselves inside out, we are impoverishing ourselves. We're taking away the best part of ourselves, the mystery, the internal mystery of what it requires to build personality. I think that there are more and more market opportunities. I'd like to see more companies like DuckDuckGo, EveryMe, Reputation.com, companies that are really focusing on privacy and protecting the individual. And I'd like to see new technologies, particularly technologies focused on the degeneration of data. If we're going to really humanize the web, data needs to degenerate. The biggest problem at the moment with the internet is it hasn't learned how to forget. If we are to civilize the internet, make it a habitable place for the 21st century, we need to teach it how to forget.
That's a good point. So, besides those things, what is your ideal vision for the future of the internet and social networks?
My ideal vision would be for them to be significant, to enable us to connect with people that we otherwise wouldn't connect with people that we are not our loved ones, our friends who don't happen to be in the same vicinity. But to also maintain the physical, to understand that really meaningful friendships can't really be replicated online, that the complexity of physical relationships, of friendship, needs to have an offline, not an element, but really to be developed, I think, offline. And as I said, to civilize the internet, to enable it to forget. I think most of all we need to make it habitable, because otherwise, if we don't, there's going to be a real reaction. People say I'm the Antichrist and a Luddite. I'm not. I'm an ex-Silicon Valley entrepreneur. I'm involved in technology every day. I'm on these networks all the time. I like my devices. But unless we clean this thing up, unless we make it more civil, more habitable, I think we are risking a massive Luddite reaction of kids. The generation after this generation are going to perhaps react much more aggressively than I've ever done. A generation of antichrists. We don't want that.
All right, Andrew Keen, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Abby. I appreciate it too. And my book is Digital Vertigo.
That's right. The book is called Digital Vertigo and is available at all major bookstores as well as online. I'm Abby Johnson with this report.
Okay. Brings up a lot of interesting points in this article, in this interview, pardon me. And I'm curious what you think. In your groups, do you think social media in general, we'll start with generalizations here, we'll move more specific later. In general, do you think social media is a good thing or a bad thing? Actually, let's rephrase that. Is it more of a good thing or is it more of a bad thing? Talk about it in your groups.
There's a quite interesting point that I wrote that down. Do you think that can I help you with your person with your friends? And it turns out to be most of the people said yes. But another question is, do you think that the past state of social media is good? Or you say no. So, it's quite a paradox that people think it helped me with super awesome, but I don't think we have that on the piece. I don't think I should say. This is part of my concern. Even in the research paper. When they say, when he is talking about his perspective, I think some point is really appealing that it's more individualized. It's an aggregation. That means aggregation is integrated. We are seeing them, we are seeing that they are showing themselves. And another point that he said is that social network is not the same as what we see. For example, I'm talking with you, but I won't thinking only from my own perspective. But when I'm posting, of course, I'm only focusing on my own perspective.
Narcissism.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So, this is my opinion.
Good points.
How about you?
Give you about 2 more minutes. Not terrible. Really? It's terrible? Why is it terrible? Why?
Because I'm addicted to it. It's you. Because I am addicted.
Are you one of these people? Okay, just out of curiosity, how many people think it's more of a good thing than a bad thing? I'll raise my hand. How many people think it's more of a bad thing than a good thing? Momo shoots her hand. Momo, other than you being addicted to the internet, why do you think it's a bad thing?
Other than.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem.
So you think it's creating an addiction? Okay.
Because it's too much fun. And life should be hard.
Life should be hard. I will remember that. Okay. I will add your assignment. I'll add to your assignments so you can thank Momo for it. We'll say 25-page paper for this class. Is that going to be hard enough for you? No? No? Okay. I'm kidding. All right. Well, there's an interesting discussion going on over here. What were y'all saying about the actual good versus bad of the internet?
Okay, so I'll say it from the very start.
Okay.
I did a research about social network last semester.
Oh, really?
2020 class, and I sent service to all of the
That's right.
students. And I have two questions that it actually come to be paradox. That first, I ask, do you think that a social network help you with your interpersonal relationship with your friends? And most of people say yes. And the second question is, do you think your time spent on social network is worthwhile? And they say no. So it's quite interesting that they thought it's good, but they don't think time spent is worthwhile.
Well, here's the thing. That does create, I would say, almost a paradox. Because if you think about the content of that question, pretty much what you're saying is, does this help you communicate? In your first question. And the answer is yes. Whether it's a time factor, whether it's I don't like talking to people factor, it does facilitate communication. Sort of. It does so on a superficial level. It's what did you have for breakfast today? What are you doing after work? Whereas you could actually have that conversation back and forth with each other. Right. So is it worthwhile? No. But it does facilitate communication. That's actually a very good point.
So from the perspective of most people, I think it's bad.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you guys a question. I'm curious. I don't know. I know about the United States, but here in China, does the government use social networking? Like to present information to anyone? Yes. They do, okay. I mean, would you consider the government to be tech savvy? Are they pretty technologically advanced? I know, I'm curious. I honestly don't know. I'll tell you for the United States government pays people to use social media and social networking on their behalf. I would say that the United States government, if we were putting them on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as technologically advanced, would probably be about a 2 or a 3. It's changing as younger people are going into government offices, but like you said in the video, a lot of the really smart tech people aren't going into government because government has just become irritating in the United States. It's not something that really matters. What matters is what's said on social media. What changes policies for the government is not what your politician says. It's what's said on social media, right? So I'm actually genuinely curious if the government, if you would consider them to be tech savvy or technologically advanced, because I genuinely don't know. Okay, interesting discussions going on here. Real quick, I want to review some of these terms that were brought up real quick. He brings up this idea of humanizing the web, humanizing the internet. What did he mean by that? Do what? He said that in order to civilize the web, in order to humanize the web, it needs to learn how to do what? It needs to learn how to forget. All right? Part of what makes us human is this ability to forget and to be reminded, right? The internet can't forget. There's a poem in there somewhere. But yeah, the internet, it logs everything. As a matter of fact, I remember when Twitter first came out a number of years ago, there was this drive, and it ended up working, everything that's put on Twitter now is archived, 100% archived by the Library of Congress in the United States. Which means every stupid tweet that's on there, the "I had a banana for lunch," "oh look, my hair is pink," these kinds of things, is archived for the rest of time in a government building. It's kind of silly. It's kind of ridiculous. But that's how we're moving. That's how we're moving, is this idea of cataloging everything. We want to document every bit of our life. Enter a new device. Let's take a look at this. Curious what your opinions might be on it. This is called the narrative clip.
I'm Scott Stein, and I'm wearing a camera. Can you see it? Yeah, it's right here. It's the narrative. It's not that hard to spot, but it's one of a growing wave of wearable cameras that are appearing now that wearable tech seems to be vying for every part of your body. Narrative Clip is not alone. There are other products like the Autographer and Sony's life-logging camera concept that are all attempting to kind of do the same thing. A lot of what Google Glass is also trying to do, which is to capture the moments in your life and remember them for you all throughout the day. Could be creepy, could be inspirational, depending on who you are. The idea is based on life logging, and this goes all the way back to Gordon Bell and My Life Bits and projects that attempted to take all of your memories out of all of the distilled bits of data in your life and collect them and allow you to browse through them. And what that means basically is that this is taking a picture twice every minute. That's simple. And it's an automatic process. There's a 5 megapixel camera in here. It's got an accelerometer, magnetometer, and GPS, and it keeps track of the position of the camera, keeps everything upright, and it collects all of those photos. In a photo quality that's kind of like an iPhone 4, nothing high-end or fancy, and if you want to take a manual photo, all you do is you double tap. Now, if you thought Google Glass was potentially invasive, well, it's harder to see this coming. You could wear it on your hat, you could wear it on your sweater, you could wear it on your jacket. I wore it all around town, and a lot of times people didn't really even know what it was. But the question was, could I actually capture a picture that would look like anything? Unlike Google Glass, where you can aim with a viewfinder, you're kind of on your own here. A little tilt up and down could be all the difference between looking at someone's face or shooting a picture of the clouds or your jacket. And it's pretty hit or miss. But that's kind of the idea, because first of all, you cannot pair the narrative clip with your phone. No, weirdly, surprisingly. It actually plugs into your computer with micro USB. You upload the photos to the cloud service that Narrative Clip offers, or locally to your hard drive. And then there is an app that your phone accesses that, if you're connected to that cloud service, pulls all the photos back down for you to browse. Kind of old-fashioned. Also creates a bit of like a box of chocolates effect, because you don't know what you're going to get any day that you walk around outside. So if you're looking for something that's really an on-the-go camera, kind of like what Looksee and others provide, you're not going to get that here. It's not going to be like a GoPro where you're going to be able to shoot photos on vacation and know what you're looking at. And that is the idea behind this Kickstarter-led project. This is a Swedish company, formerly known as Memodo, that created this to really be low-key, to not be something you're paying attention to, and not have to micromanage all the time. To its credit, I kept forgetting that I was wearing it. I'd walk around and people would say, "What is that on you?" And I go, "Oh yeah, I'm still wearing the camera." And that's the idea, to blend in and be invisible. But this is $279 for the privilege of being involved in the Narrative Clip's early days, which is a lot of money for a camera that doesn't really do anything that a lot of point-and-shoots at the same price would do, or fancier smartphone cameras. So that's also including a year of Narrative Clip cloud service, but once that runs out, it will cost $9 a month to use that service. So that's over $100 a year to keep using the service that makes Narrative Clip potentially interesting. You can just download those photos directly to your hard drive and upload them afterwards to Instagram or Flickr or wherever else you want to go, Facebook. But what's the point? Because the Narrative Clip service attempts to distill photos down to moments, and it claims that it does it by looking at lighting conditions, image sharpness, even facial recognition, and pulling out moments. But the moments are pretty random. Sometimes it could be a picture of a street, sometimes it could be your friend eating a donut, or it could just be a picture of a ceiling. Now, do you have to wear this all the time and keep recording everything? No. In fact, in the narrative reviewer's guide and on their website, they recommend that you stop taking photographs at times when it doesn't seem appropriate. All you have to do that is put it face down where it automatically turns off, or you stick it in your pocket and it won't take pictures anymore. But I kept forgetting to take it off, so odds are you might end up wearing this anyhow wherever you might go. And maybe that's the idea of wearable tech, that we're going to have cameras on us all the time, watching everything we do. A panopticon. Hopefully not, but Narrative Clip is not going to be the last of its type out there in the wearable camera space. I'm Scott Stein, and that's a look at the Narrative Clip, available now.
Okay, so basically what this thing does, if you're wearing it all the time, takes approximately 2,000 pictures a day. Takes 2 pictures every minute. All right? Do what? No, 2 pictures every minute. 2. Yep. Every 30 seconds it takes a picture. It's 2. It couldn't hold that many. But if you want to take your own picture, you just go, and it takes the picture for you. So, thoughts on this? There are 2 ways to look at this. Again, in terms of input and output. Are you collecting images, in which case you would say, oh, I'm going to reach into my pocket, take out my phone, smile, Momo, click, right? Or it can be looked at terms of output as well, as I'm going to show people what I'm doing all day long, right? Which is kind of what we do with Twitter anyway, is I just got up, I just had breakfast, I just went to the bathroom, I just took a shower, right? That's, if you follow some people on Twitter, they will post this. So this is a way to chronicle your entire life in your groups. Good thing, bad thing, both thing. What do you think? Talk about it. Let me ask you this, though. You said you take them because they're beautiful, right? Do you take it for you to remember the beauty or for other people to see the beauty? All right. Spoken like a true artist. But think about this. If you're running down the street jogging, right? How much distance have you covered in 1 minute? You might miss something important.
Yeah, but I need to bring 2,000 a day.
I know. That's a lot of pictures. And supposedly there's in the app, it'll actually erase all the meaningless photos, but that's more computers taking over your life. Right? Or is it? That's another aspect of social media and the psychology, is people actually compare their lives to other people's. They compare it to what people see online, which is never 100% accurate. So it creates depression. Yep. Okay, so what are y'all's thoughts on the narrative clip? Lena, you were bringing up some good points. What did you have to say?
Memorize the whole day of your life when we read all these things. You will find
That is actually a very interesting point. That folds into what we've been talking about for almost 2 years now, on the idea of critical thought and looking at the world in a different way. You approach those pictures a lot more critically because you're looking through them and you come across something that's, wait, I didn't notice that. That's interesting. So then what do you do the next time you look through those pictures? You look a little bit more carefully to see what you can find. Absolutely. That is a good aspect of it. It does create a more critical eye to the world around you. Good. What else? What do you guys think? Momo, is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing? It keeps you from doing this all day, right?
No, I just think sometimes technology is too convenient, way too much convenient.
Interesting.
So if it takes some time for you to upload some posts, so you may reconsider what you are going to post. But because it's too convenient, so you just consider it as your diary.
Okay, this is interesting because what we've just seen here is two opposing points of view that both support critical thinking, right? We look at this of looking through the pictures more critically. That is definitely having a critical eye towards the world. But what Momo's saying here is that if we actually stop and think about what we're writing, we're thinking more critically in that way too. This is why it gets so confusing when you try to debate these ideas of is it a good thing, is it a bad thing, right? Very good point on that. So, as we move forward with this next project, what we're going to be doing is examining the role of social media. When we're talking about writing for cyberspace, we're going to be looking into cyberspace to get our information and then find a way to present that information through cyberspace. It's kind of a meta study, so to say. We'll talk about the rest of these. We're not going to have time to get to all of these today. We'll finish up with these next class period on Thursday, not Wednesday. But what I want you guys to understand is that we will be moving forward with the study process of this, meaning you are going to use Qualtrics in this class. Okay, you are going to make some surveys. But what I'm mainly interested in, you've done surveys of the students here. I'm not as interested in what students do on the internet as I am about what your parents do on the internet, your grandparents do on the internet, your extended family. If they don't, great. That's don't worry about it. We'll talk about that. I'm wanting to know what the older generations that you are in contact with use the internet for, whether they are your family, your family's friends. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday also, is I'm going to ask you to put together a Qualtrics survey for them. All right? I'd like you to see if you can come up with about 50 people that you could get reliable data from. And then we're going to take a look at that. We're going to compile all of the data and take a look at it together. And then you'll write a kind of a consensus report based on what you see that can be published. All right? Don't freak out. I know it's a big college word, published. I still do that. Yes, you can be a writer. But don't worry. We're taking it a piece at a time. We've got a few weeks to do this. So our next step here is to look at these things. We wanted to kind of evaluate this idea of the good and the bad. I want you guys to go in. You're going to hear a lot of people say that you don't want to go in with a preconceived idea before you start a study. That is true. You shouldn't, but the problem is you do, right? You go in knowing that I have this opinion. So what I wanted to do today was get you to talk a little bit about these different ideas. Is it good? Is it bad? Do we see this as input or output? And I think the interview that they did was actually really good because the woman who was doing the interview, Abby, was talking to him, and she went in with this preconceived idea of, you think the internet is evil. And he immediately shut that down. I think he was pretty even on it, explaining how it is a good thing, it is a bad thing, here's where they kind of line up. And that's what I want you guys to do also. I want you to approach it knowing that, yes, there are bad things from social media. There are good things from social media. But we have to figure out, for ourselves, which one is best. Momo, you have a very personal reason for having your opinion, right? Because you feel like it's consuming your life. Lena, you have a different idea about it. Everybody in here has different levels of whether you think it's good or bad. And that's why I want us to write kind of the paper together to create a consensus, because that'll help to kind of even everything out. If Momo writes a report on her own, it's going to be like this. Not intentionally, but it's our own personal rhetoric that comes out. Whereas if Martin writes a paper, it might be more like this. Who knows? But if we even it all out, if we look at all the data together and we compile all the data together, and then we actually see what might be causing these trends, and trend is a word that you need to make sure you understand, T-R-E-N-D, trend is a word we'll use a lot over these next few weeks. We'll see why these trends exist, and again, if they could be considered a positive or a negative or a both, and how they fit into society. Okay? Questions before we finish today? No questions? All right, do not forget, next Thursday, not Wednesday. I keep wanting to say Wednesday. Thursday, your product review is due. We're going to post them up to class, in class, create the actual YouTube channel, use social media. Yeah. We're posting them on YouTube. Do it. The script we're going to upload to Turnitin. Yeah. I have not opened up the Turnitin page yet. I'll do that probably this afternoon. So. The script of the product review. Yeah.
In the video.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, guys. Have a good day. I will see you later.